Vampires have prowled the lands of Ardoran since humankind first erected their great kingdoms and towering monuments, scheming and plotting against the humans since the dawn of civilization. When we awaken within Vardaran and set out on the quest of resurrecting our great vampire dynasties, we are thrown into a world of conflict. Humanity ready at arms to face us with a desperate and fanatical determination. However, the world was not always like this. In the beginning, there was a way of things, a cycle. Humankind went about their way learning, trading, and building their empires. But such grand machinations cast long shadows. In those shadows lived the other half of the cycle, the vampire. In exchange for illusions of independence and unwitting protection from the many predators of the night, the vampires fed on mankind's wealth and blood, living in a delicate harmony with them. So it was for millennia, but no such balance can last forever. Thus, we are thrown into a world of tumultuous conflict. But how did it come to be this way? The scars of a war have been here from time immemorial. Erroneous bedtime stories and wicked tales are all that remain in human memory, for many generations have lived and died since the war. The truth, however, lives on in the memories of every vampire alive during the Great War. It was a conflict born from the very nature of vampires themselves. Hunger. Endless hunger. This incessant ambition finally brought one vampire to shatter the order which had kept the lands in a fragile balance. Dracula. Dracula was a pioneer, the first to pierce the veil of hell and concord with the mysterious entities residing within. A dark throne manifested within Dracula's castle, a conduit between planes. From here he would set forth towards world domination. The other vampires were not without ambitions themselves, however, and so came the Great War, an extraordinary struggle to wrest control of Dracula's newfound power. For the war effort, no village was left untouched, no resources untapped, no mercy given to the unfortunate bystanders of this terrible war. And so their war was cast into the light for all to see, throwing humanity into the darkness. In their darkness, they implored to the ether for anybody, anything which could save them. And something answered. The light, an enigmatic benevolent force which could incinerate the vampires and bring daylight to the darkest corners of the lands. The Church of Luminance was formed, a final bastion of humanity. At their monasteries, they would train clerics, war priests, and paladins. The paladins of light would ride into vampire-infested lands and cleanse them of evil. This holy campaign culminated in an epic battle in which Dracula himself was obliterated by the light. The legions of vampires scattered into the darkest corners of the world. Now hunted and outmatched, the remaining vampires erected a dark barrier around Farbane Woods and hid away in damp, desolate crypts. The darkness which aided Dracula was now silent to them, and so they slept. In their haste to create the barrier, one of the most formidable vampires, Styx the Sunderer, was left behind enemy lines. Thought to be betrayed by his kin, he wanders the remote regions of Vardaran with his army of Geists, plotting his next move. The Church of Luminance wasn't the only people hunting for Styx and the other vampires. There was also a small group of elite vampire hunters that can be found patrolling the lands. One in particular, Jade the Vampire Hunter, is specifically hunting Styx the Sunderer. Whilst the vampire hunters remain committed to their quest, the Church of Luminance has forgotten it, and found a different objective in the absence of the vampires. They would rule the lands with an iron fist, collecting what little wealth and worth the people still had. Centuries would pass, hundreds of years of overgrowth would go on to swallow the last remnants of vampire civilization. Their crypts forgotten to time, and the barrier with it. Farbane Woods would slowly become colonized once again by thieves, bandits, and all manner of other lowly people. In the darkness, a dark herald's cry rings out from the abyss, awakening the vampires from their forgotten tombs, summoning their plight among the lands once again. With the Church of Luminance crazed and isolated, the rest of Vardaran has been left to adapt on its own. In the northern reaches of Vardaran, a mad scientist named Henry Blackbrew had been experimenting with radical technology in an attempt to perfect life itself. After years of struggle and horrible experiments, he crafted his magnum opus, Adam, the Firstborn, a titanic patchwork entity with power which could rival the head of the church itself, Solaris the Immaculate. These lands are ridden with disease and monstrous creatures. The Dunley farmlands are guarded by Octavian the militia captain, with a ragtag local militia operating as the local security forces. It has since become a breeding ground for all manner of dark creatures, such as werewolves and a shadow priestess. The Farbane Woods are a lawless land run by thieves and bandits, most of which have been sent there for their crimes. Quincy the Bandit King is their leader, and seems to have a very little control over these lands as they are rife with the undead influence. Various massive graveyards can be found here, with Church of Luminance iconography, indicating the church constructed these graveyards to house slain vampires, or perhaps keep vampires out. In the northeast, you'll find the Cursed Forest, and it's just that, cursed. It is inhabited by the undead, witches, spiders, and all manner of cursed creatures. It seems this is the site of a failed ritual. One of the most powerful creatures in Vardaran resides here, the Behemoth. It is rumored that the Behemoth was once a vampire warrior, and the Duke of Balaton was a vampire aristocrat, both twisted into horrible creatures due to the curse upon this region. It's likely some Dracula loyalists tried to resurrect him here, and it went terribly wrong. We find similar clues in the Hollowed Mountains to the east. Frostmaw the Mountain Terror and Terrorclaw the Ogre, likely twisted and deformed beyond recognition, caused by the epical event that transpired within the Cursed Forest. It is into this world of chaos we are thrust, to create our own empires or to compete with others, to conquer Vardaran once again or live lavishly in your castle. The choice is just one jump away.